Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Politics Lab on YouTube. My name is Bill Muck. I'm a professor of political science at North Central College, and I'm joined, as always, by my colleague and best friend, Dr. Phil Barker, who's a professor of political science at Keene State College. Happy New Year, Phil.
Happy New Year, Bill.
So it turns out that Donald Trump was on making phone calls again, getting himself in trouble by calling people. And we're going to take our short little video here to break down what happened. We're going to play you a little bit of audio. But before we get that point, Phil, do you want to tell the listeners what they're going to see?
Yeah, so the backstory very briefly is that Donald Trump scheduled a phone call with the Secretary of State of Georgia, who he's been sort of attacking, for months now. And the Secretary of State of Georgia smartly decided, hey, I'm going to record this phone call. He's the one who Lindsey Graham had called and pressured. So they recorded this, what turned out to be an hour-long phone call from the president, pressuring him to make changes to the election outcome. Apparently they were not planning to release it unless Trump basically disputed what was said in the call or in some way threatened him, which Trump immediately did. Yes. And so Washington Post broke this huge story. And so, yeah, we've got some of the clips here.
So we will go right to we're going to talk about two of the little clips. This is the first one where Trump, we'll just play it.
We have won this election in Georgia based on all of this. And there's nothing wrong with saying that, Brad. You know, I mean, having a correct, the people of Georgia are angry. And these numbers are going to be repeated on Monday night, along with others that we're going to have by that time, which are much more substantial even. And the people of Georgia are angry. The people of the country are angry. And there's nothing wrong with saying that, that you've recalculated.
Well, Mr. President, the challenge that you have is the data you have is wrong.
All right, Phil. So spreading ballots.
Still got the audio going?
Yes. We're pretty high tech here. All right, Phil. Trump says they just need to recalculate. Nothing wrong with that, is there?
Yeah, no. No, so first of all, I'm really impressed with the Republican Secretary of State. Like, this election we've talked about on the podcast and on these videos, that there's sort of, it feels like a handful of people who have prevented kind of the collapse of democracy. And he deserves a lot of credit for very calmly just responding with, like, that's your data is wrong. The fascinating thing to me on all of this is it just shows, it makes clear to me how far down the sort of rabbit hole, the crazy hole Trump has gone, right? Yeah. This is any argument that he doesn't really believe this stuff and he's just using it. Like, this is a private conversation that he thought no one would ever hear. He is all in. He believes this. He believes the conspiracy theories that he's been, all he cares about is, how he looks. But it is really disturbing that the president believes this. And it is incredibly disturbing that the president is calling election officials, trying to pressure them to change what are at this point undisputed electoral outcomes.
It is, right. This is perfect Mad King behavior, where he's using his office and the power of his office to pressure others in the party, other elected officials, to do things that are, let's say, illegal, right? I mean, he is putting pressure on this guy to say, I want you to engage in some illegal behavior. What Trump did is illegal, right? It's against, like you said, state law. And it's sort of shocking, but we shouldn't be shocked anymore. If this happened earlier in an administration, there's no question he would be once again impeached for this. This feels very much like Ukraine.
It is the Ukraine phone call. Yes.
He was impeached for calling and doing this on the phone, and yet he does it again. There's just, he's just so careless. I guess maybe just indifferent to the implications of any of this.
Yeah. Play the second clip, Bill.
Okay. Yeah,
I caught you off guard. You weren't ready to play it yet.
That's okay. We're going to be good here. All right. So this is the second one. All right. And, oh, wait, not quite yet. I got to go to the other one, Phil. Offense high tech here. We're fancy. All right. Here we go.
You know what they did, and you're not reporting it. That's a criminal offense. And you can't let that happen. That's a big risk to you and to Ryan, your lawyer. That's a big risk. But they are shredding ballots, in my opinion, based on what I've heard. And they are removing machinery, and they're moving it as fast as they can, both of which are criminal fines, and you can't let it happen, and you are letting it happen. I'm notifying you that you're letting it happen. So, look, all I want to do is this. I just want to find 11,780 votes, which is one more than we have, because we won the state.
All right, Phil. So he is asking the Secretary of State of Georgia to go out and find votes.
Yeah.
This is, I mean, we study international politics. This is what authoritarians do. This is what a guy like Vladimir Putin does. He's smart enough not to let somebody tape the phone call, but to go out and say, find those votes. And if you don't play ball, you could be liable criminally for. I mean, this is worse than the first clip we showed.
Oh, for sure. I mean, this is when I think about, like, you know, the Watergate tapes, recordings of the president do it. Like, it was such a huge explosive moment, and this is worse than that, right? I mean, this is 100% impeachable. It is arguably, it's not arguably. I think it's pretty clearly illegal. You mentioned earlier there are Georgia statutes that make it a crime to try to influence basically to try to push someone or encourage someone to commit electoral fraud, which is what he's doing. So there's federal statutes that he might well have violated as well. I mean, I think it's important to kind of go back and there's a couple of things to that clip that I find fascinating. One of which is it shows the insanity to which the logic has been flipped for Trump and for the Republican Party. What he's saying is, I need you to find these votes because we won, right? So he is convinced I have won, and so the numbers must be wrong. I need you to find those votes to line up with the fact that I have won. Like that, the backwardness of that, right? So anyway, and the extent to which, I mean, it feeds into this logic that the Republican Party has picked up on, in that a huge number of Republicans this week, as the Electoral College votes are counted, are planning to contest. And the argument is not that there is, like, the argument has shifted. It's not that there's widespread fraud. The argument is there are a lot of people who have concerns about this election. Yeah. But the only reason they have concerns is because of this insanity, right? This whole this whole argument, the circle that they're going through, has become completely detached from fact or from any sense of reality, but they're just all in on it. It's really disturbing. And again, I mean, those are not very veiled threats, right? I mean, it's not I guess it's not a direct threat, but, you know, if you don't do something, you're facing legal consequences. That recording is massive, right? That is a historic recording. And I'm flabbergasted that there's a recording of the president doing this. I'm even more flabbergasted that recording is out, and the majority of institutional Republicans are still on board. Like, they're
it is hard to wrap your head around it so bad. I mean, you were talking about what kind of threat. There was a lawyer being interviewed who talked about mob prosecutions, and he said, like this is more than, like, the mob never says, like, I'm going to break your leg. It's always insinuated, right? And this is what the president is doing. Like, things are going to be bad for you if you don't play ball. And the Watergate example is so fascinating. There was somebody else on Twitter today who was a historian about Watergate, writing a book on Watergate, and he said it's tame by comparison. When you go look back at what Nixon was doing and the fallout from that, we're not even in the same category. This is so much worse. The other thing about authoritarians is that they're stupid about the votes, right? You know, Kim Jong-un will get 99.99% of the vote. Trump thinks it's okay if they just got to find enough votes so he's got one more, right?
Even if he did, Georgia doesn't put him over the top. Like, the delusion is, it really lends itself to, again, that throughout 4 years, I really went back and forth on whether Trump was, you know, sort of brilliant at getting people, you know, the base on board, or whether he was crazy. And these sorts of conversations, these private conversations, point toward he's not living in reality, right? That I think there's, you know, like, history's going to look back on, he is not well. Yeah. And it's really concerning that he's still got 3 weeks in office. And, you know, who knows what else is going to happen in that time.
Well, absolutely. There still is more, 17 some days that he can cause havoc. It is. I don't know what to make of all of it, because you know, if the Secretary of State of Georgia and a couple others had not stood up, this could have played out very, very differently. Like, we owe a gratitude to those Republicans who said no to the president, because if they hadn't, the democracy may have literally crumbled. And I don't think that's an exaggeration to say, if the Secretary of State here in Georgia or in Pennsylvania or one of those other states, like it was razor thin from that system collapsing. And it should terrify us that this is happening, and that the president is so brazen in his attacks on democracy. He's totally indifferent to the long-term normative impact of this. Again, it's stunning that we're not spending more time talking about this as a country.
I think you're right. The fact that the president is doing this is massive warning signs and red flags. But the bigger concern for me is that the system is not reacting to the president doing this, that the Republican Party isn't speaking out, that there's not, like, there should be instantaneous, like there should be, another impeachment, inquiry begun today. I don't care if there's only 16 days left in his presidency. It is the fact that we have become so used to this over these 4 years, and that it has shifted the Republican Party in really strange ways. That's the long-term legacy that really leaves me concerned moving forward.
Absolutely. I mean, think about what a week we're observing. So Trump is trying to flip Georgia by putting pressure. Tomorrow, Tuesday, we're going to have the special election in Georgia. And then on Wednesday is the Electoral College vote at the Congress, where you're going to have Republicans protesting this. There's going to be people in the street. What a week. Well, all the more reason for everybody to tune in on Wednesday for our podcast. I'm sure we're going to be talking about all of these dramatic Democratic developments. So this should be an interesting, albeit a bit dangerous week. So, all right, Phil, I'll see you on Wednesday.
See you on Wednesday, Bill.